Very
This
good morning to
conference
one and
will
all.
now be recorded.
Greetings from Career IT. Okay. So I would request every one of you to go on mute, please. Thank you. So a couple of things, guys. Please don't unmute yourself until and unless it's really necessary in the interest of recording. Okay. So you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat window, right? And for any questions or for any acknowledgement or whatever you might have, this is the way you can interact with us. Just ping in the chat window. That will do. So let's get started. I am not sure about from what background you have came from. I mean your technical background. So let me start from a very basic thing. And the agenda for today's demo is, I'll be walking you through some basic knowledge about big data, and then we'll be walking you through different technologies we use in big data, and I'll also walk you through what we are going to cover in this course. Okay, so these are the few important things which I would be focusing on, and once we are done with that, I'll be taking your questions, right? So in order to acknowledge to my questions, you can probably again use the chat window. Are you with me so far? You can use your chat window to acknowledge. Thank you. So let me introduce myself, guys. My name is Suresh. I have 6+ years of working experience on big data in real-time industries. Okay, so I have worked for various MNCs, starting from TCS, where I started my career as a big data developer, and then I worked for Ernst and Young. So there I was working for a very interesting team called FIDS, Forensic Investigation and Dispute Services, where we have dealt with a lot of unstructured data there. Okay, in order to identify any fraud that has happened. I'm not sure how many of you have heard of this firm Ernst and Young. So they predominantly does this audit job. So we take a lot of their files, we take a lot of their emails, we take a lot of their data from different sources, which are mostly unstructured, and try to see if some fraud has happened. Then I moved on to Deloitte, and there I was working on digital marketing data for Google as my client. So at one point in time, I was doing some analysis on all the Gmail IDs across the globe. Okay, so pretty interesting work use cases there. And then I moved on to Franklin Templeton, which is an asset management company. Now I'm working on this asset management domain, the stock marketing, to be precise. Okay, so I have worked on almost all the domains that were there. I have worked on insurance, I have worked on digital marketing, I have worked on automobile. I'm working on stock marketing right now. Okay, and then talking about my training experience, I have close to 3.5 years of training experience and trained more than 3,000 professionals on big data and Python. Okay, so I have been there in big data right from MapReduce, when people used to use MapReduce, seen all the transition from MapReduce to Spark, right? So let's get started. So what is this term big data called, and what are the different problems which made companies, or which forced companies to use big data or move their infrastructure to big data? So these things I'm gonna address today. Let me open my notepad. Okay, so what is data, guys, according to you? What is data? You can again use your chat window. So let's try to make this interactive. Collection of related data. Okay, cool. So let me answer. Data, to talk in a bookish way, it's nothing but collection of raw collection of raw facts. Okay, so this is a bookish definition of data, collection of raw facts. Okay, so let me give you some example. Data are nothing but numbers. Data are nothing but numbers. When I say numbers, it could be numbers, or it's something which gives you some sense of what's happening. Data is something which gives you some sense of what's happening. Okay, let me take an example. You take any e-commerce websites, be it Amazon, be it Flipkart, be it eBay, whatever, right? So for them, the data would be their their customer details, or their sales details, their product details, and their stock details. So they're all nothing but data for them. So by having their customer details, they can promote their products. uh, by having sales data, or by having sales details, they can do a lot of analysis, and they can come up with new strategies of how they can promote their products, or how they can promote the products that are being sold on their platform. By having the product information, or by having the product details, they can come up with which products to sell in which particular region, maybe on a seasonal basis, maybe on a demand basis. Okay, for example, because of these quarantine, a lot of people are working from home. So this is the best time to sell computer accessories like Bluetooth mouse and keyboard, or monitors, or any other computer accessories what you could name of. Okay, so how would they get to know that? From the search patterns, from the search patterns of what the users are doing. So what you guys will do when you want to buy a particular product, you open that app, and then you keep searching for that particular product, maybe on a different platforms. When you want to buy something, you'll not be sticking to one particular site. So you'll be doing it on multiple apps. Like you'll be searching it on Amazon, you'll be searching it on Flipkart, you'll be searching it on maybe their official company website. Okay, so for example, you want to buy a Dell monitor, you wanted to compare the price with their official website as well, Dell website, or any other reliable e-commerce websites, right? And then you do a comparison, and then you'll buy which one offers you the best quotation, right? So they would be understanding your preferences to buy something via your search patterns. So they'll be tracking whatever you are doing once you have landed on their app, and whatever you have done in that particular app, right? So they can use that details to, again, to push their products on us, right? So this is what we call as data. This is what we call as data. So it's nothing but some stats, I would say. I don't want to confine myself to numbers, but I would say data is nothing but collection of some stats, but the bookish definition, collection of raw facts. Okay, and then we have something called as information. So what is information, guys? According to your knowledge, what do you think information is? Okay, let me tell you. So information is nothing but useful information, or useful data, or insights from data. Okay, information is nothing but insights from data. Again, let me explain this with an example, right? Let's take my favorite e-commerce example again, Amazon, right? So you want to see the numbers, their sales, you'll go for sales data. But maybe Big Billion Day is coming, or Amazon Great Indian Sale is coming up, right? So if I give them the sales data, the business wouldn't be able to make any decisions. If I give them the sales data, they'll not be able to make any decisions just by looking at the data. Instead, if I tell them, maybe in Hyderabad, the most sold product is maybe OnePlus 7. I have told them the most sold product in Hyderabad is OnePlus 7. So what they'll do is they'll come up with some offers on OnePlus 7 because it is the most sold item and they wanted to make most of it. Or maybe if I say top 5 sold products in India are maybe X, Y, Z, and PQ. Okay, now they will redefine their strategies. Maybe they might have their own strategies. Now they might redefine it based on the analysis we provide. Okay, this is what we call as information. Information is something which is extracted out of data and provided it to the business in order to derive their strategies, or in order to decide on their strategies, right? This is what we call as information. This is the difference between data and information. If we could understand this thing, everything revolves around these two definitions. So deriving information from data. Okay, deriving information from data. So this process is what we call as data mining. This process is what we call as data mining. So we extract useful information, or we extract the information out of data, useful insights out of data, and around these two terms, we revolve. Be it big data, be it data engineering, be it data science, whatever. Okay, would be revolving around these two terms. Now, since I have told you these things, data engineering and data science. Data engineering and data science. Let me explain the difference between these two terms. Most of the people were confused with these two terms, data engineering and data science, right? So data will be in different formats. Like to be pretty honest, data will be in different format. This data science guy knows what to do with the data, and he doesn't know how to do it. And then this data engineering guy knows how to do it. Okay, for example, let me consider myself as a data scientist. Okay, and then I have sales data. I have looked at sales data, and then I have decided to create a use case. So create a use case for what? Predicting what would be the most sold items during my next Great Indian Sale. Now I know what algorithm to apply. Data science have a combination of algorithms. I know what algorithm to apply, and I know what data I would need, or what features I would need in order to run that algorithm to get a better results. Now what I would do is I would call my data engineer and I would say, boss, this is what I wanted to do, and I want the data, and the data from maybe source 1, source 2, source 3. When I say source 1, source 2, source 3, they could be your existing data. They could be something which you need to purchase from vendors. So people sell data, right? Companies sell data. So sometimes you might need to purchase that data. Sometimes you need to do some kind of web scraping in order to get the data. Sometimes you need to rely on Google Analytics data to understand what people are mostly searching for in Google search engine. Okay, so there are multiple sources from where you can get the data. Now I would call my data engineer and I would say, boss, these are the few sources from where you'll have to extract the data and then do all the wrangling that is required. And I wanted data to be in this format so that I can feed it into my algorithm. Now what this data engineer will do is he will be adopting different technologies, or he will be using different technologies to fetch this data, whatever the data that is requested, and then do all the data massaging. When I say data massaging or data wrangling, they all refer to the kind of transformations we do. When I say transformations includes joining, pivoting, unpivoting, union. Any operation you mention, what you do on data would be involved here. Okay, after you have done all the data massaging, and once you brought it into a format which is requested by the data scientist, you'll be asking him to consume it. Okay, so sometimes maybe an algorithm would need only categorical values, but you are getting continuous variables. You might need to apply some logic in order to convert that continuous variables to categorical variables. Let me explain what exactly I'm talking about. So continuous variables will have a continuous number. Okay, like it's indefinite. So what do I mean by that? Maybe your weight is is a continuous variable, because when you talk about your weight, it could be 50, it could be 40, it could be 45.5, it could be 60, it could be 70. So they are indefinite. You take a data set, you'll not have definite number of those values. Okay. Now, similarly, age as well. If you take your age, it could be 18, it could be 19, it could be 23, it could be anything. Okay. So talking about categorical values, you'll have finite number of categories. Okay, like high, low, medium is one category. Yes, no, another category. Okay, and maybe weekdays, another category. You'll have only 7. So how would we do that? Again, let's take age. Let's take age. Maybe in my data I have something called age, and age is a continuous variable, like I have discussed, 18, 19, 20, so on and so forth. Now, how would I convert it to categorical values? I'll take the same age. Now, what I would do is, I'll define categories. Age less than maybe 20, I would call them as teens. And if age in between 20 to 30, I would call them as young. Maybe 30 to 45, I would call them as middle age. And maybe greater than 45, I would say old. Now, instead of having indefinite values, I had only 4 definite values: teens, young, middle age, and old. So this is how we convert these continuous variables to categorical variables. Okay, again, this is just one example of data transformations, what we usually do. But then there are a lot of data transformations which can be applied. Okay, and then I'll be providing my data in a format that your data scientist can readily consume. He would be running his algorithm and finally providing insights to the business, and it's up to the business to take the decisions based on the analysis I give him. I mean, based on the analysis we give him. So this is what a typical data engineer and a data scientist will do. Okay, now our big data stack would come into data engineering phase. So most of the time we deal with data engineering stuff, and these big data technologies have also data science capabilities. I'll be talking about that, but this is what a typical data scientist would do: data engineer and data scientist. Okay, now moving on, we have talked about what is data and then what is information, right? Now I'll be talking about types of data. Okay, so I would say there are a couple of classifications of data. So one classification is on your type, like transactional data, and second one is historic data. Okay, so now let me explain. So transactional data is nothing but your current data, or maybe if you are using a website, any data which you can edit is called as transaction data. So for example, your login information, it's a transaction data. So the moment you give your login credentials, you should be able to log in immediately. Okay, so this transaction data wouldn't take much time. I mean, you send a query and then you'll get the result ASAP. Okay, so your customer information in Amazon portal, again a transaction data, right? Your payment information, again a transaction data. So they're all transaction data. So transaction data is nothing but your current data, what you are using right now. Okay, and another thumb rule, you should be able to edit that data, you should be able to update that data. Okay, and talking about historic data, maybe the same transaction data after some time will become your historic data. Let me explain. So for example, you are looking to purchase a product. So what would you do in the very first step? You would be opening some portal. Maybe let's say you don't want to compare it with different different e-commerce sites. You are very reliable on Amazon. So you have opened Amazon and you have searched for a particular product, right? What are the, say for example, you have typed Dell P series monitor, which I have been doing from quite a while now, from during this lockdown. Okay, Dell P series monitor. What it would do is it will go and fetch the product data, everything related to Dell. Okay, that is again a transaction data. Then you have selected a particular product, you have made the payment, and you have got the delivery data. Again, all these entries would be transactional. All these entries would be transactional. So that data would be transactional till your product is received, till your replacement period is over. And once replacement period is over, it's no more transactional. It's considered to be historic. The reason being, till this replacement period is over, at any point in time, that data can be changed. So for example, you want to go for replacement policy, then they might have to update their entry saying that you have requested for replacement and they have replaced it with some other product. Product ID would change, right? Okay, so similarly, you want to cancel it or you want to return it. Again, their records have to be updated. But once after return policy is over, Amazon is nowhere concerned with you. So anything problem with the system, you'll have to get in touch directly with the Dell folks. Okay, so once the return period is over, that data would be historic because nobody would be updating it and nobody would be touching it. So that data would be historic. Now, my question is, can we delete the historic data or can we afford to lose historic data? Answer is big no. The reason being, we will be leveraging this historic data in order to improve our business. In order to improve our business, right? Let me give you another example. Okay, so this is a funny example and pretty famous example as well. Okay, sometimes our common sense makes a lot of mistakes. Sometimes our common sense makes a lot of mistakes. Okay, let me explain. Okay, this is a few years back. Walmart have conducted a analysis and they have found that a guy with age greater than 25 or more than 25 on a weekend, whenever he is buying milk, he is also buying milk, not milk, I think it's diapers. Whenever he is buying diapers, he is also buying beer can. He is also buying a beer can. How would they got to notice this? So they have all the billing information, they have seen what are the products that are bought together, and they have found that a user with age greater than 25 and during weekends who is buying a diaper is also buying beer. Okay, so it wondered all of them, like how could this be possible? So where are these diapers and beers are related? They are nowhere related, but then they wanted to give it a shot. So what they have done is, Walmart is a physical store, it's not any online platform. So what they have done is they have arranged diapers and beers next to each other. They have arranged diapers and beers next to each other, which increased the sales of both the products by 5%, which is a good increase, I would say, for the kind of effort they have put in. Okay, so this is one such example. Sometimes our common sense may mislead you, but not the numbers. But not the numbers. Again, I can give you a live example of my uncle. So if I ask you what is the season where most of the air conditioners are bought, anybody would close their eyes and would say it's summer, but that's wrong. But that's wrong, at least in my uncle's shop case. So what he have done is, his shop is not a humongous one. So it's a small, he is a small distributor in my hometown. So what he does is, whenever a customer purchases an AC, he will be giving them a handwritten bill with a copy. Okay, with a copy retained with him. So what he have done is, he have taken maybe 3 years of copies, maybe 3 years of copies, and he have seen what are the most sold air conditioners and in what season they were sold most. And to his surprise, he saw that December and January are the most sold seasons. And again, among these 2 months, he observed that January is the month where most of the ACs were sold. Okay, so now what he have done is, he have ordered all the ACs from all the different brands and different types, different capacities, and had a good collection of ACs in his store. So he just wanted to experiment it. Okay, if they were not sold in January, anyhow he would be able to sell them in June or May. Okay, so he took that risk, though his common sense was telling nobody would buy them in winter, but he just decided to stay back on his guts, and he went ahead and bought these air conditioners. Okay, and then he observed, like any customer who is planning to buy an air conditioner would definitely buy it in either December or winter, assuming that AC prices would be cheaper in winter. Okay, people who wanted to buy on demand basis are the only ones who would be buying it on summer. So for example, this summer is terrible, I'm not able to survive it, and maybe I lost my sleep for maybe 3-4 days consecutively because of this humidity. Maybe that is where I decide on buying an AC. But people who are planning to buy an AC for quite a long time now would be preferring to buy it only in winter. Okay, assuming that air conditioner prices would be cheaper. Okay, and talking about both the Telugu speaking states culture, be it Telangana or Andhra, I don't know about northern states because they don't have this festival called Pongal. So we have Pongal in January. We have Pongal in January where all the relatives would be going back to their hometowns, and most of the people, the Indian people, Indian tendency, so they tend to buy new products on an occasion. Maybe most of the North Indians will buy a lot of products during Diwali, during any other big festivals of theirs, and similarly people from southern states, they have their own festivals like Pongal for both the Telugu speaking states and as well as Tamil Nadu, Karnataka as well. Okay, so this is the time where a lot of air conditioners were sold for him. Okay, and yeah, this is how the analysis on your data would help you to improve your business. And trust me guys, all the air conditioners he have in stock were sold within a month. By Jan end, everything was sold out. Okay, and again, this becomes a pattern for customers as well. Customers would say, I have roamed around 4-5 shops in the town, but this is the only shop where you can get huge collection of air conditioners. With that, his reputation would also grow. Is the case with any other businesses. I have taken a small business, but you take any other business, you take healthcare industries, you take insurance industries, you take banking industries. So they are investing, they are dumping a huge amount of investment on these kind of analysis, And then let me ask you another question. So which one would give you better results? Maybe analyzing small data sets or analyzing big data sets? When I say small data set and big data set, maybe I wanted to predict my sales. So maybe analyzing 3 months data would give me better result, or maybe analyzing 3-year data would be giving me better results. Obviously, analyzing 3-year data would give me better results because it will involve more trends, more transactions as well, right? So analyzing more data would give me better results. Again, how big or how more data it should be, so or to what extent I can go back. I cannot definitely go and analyze 2002 data, 2003 data, because the trends or patterns have been changed drastically. Or I would say I don't even need to go back till 2010 data. Okay, so anything about 2015 will do the trick for me. Again, it depends on what industry and how updated that industry is. If you consider maybe healthcare, or if you consider maybe banking, you can still go back to 2010 or 2011 data. But you talk about e-commerce data sets, you talk about any trends, that is gone. So if you go back to 2014, 2013, no smart mobiles were used. So you cannot take 2010 data, 2011 data in order to do some analysis on how the mobiles were sold back then. Okay. So this is what we call as relevancy or relevant data, right? So bigger the data set is, you would need more infrastructure. I would say advanced infrastructure. Okay. And yeah, there is another classification of data, which is structured, unstructured, and semi-structured. This is another classification of data. So when you talk about structured data, this data is nicely structured, and you have this data in tabular format, rows and columns. So you'll have a beautiful structure around it. Okay, so any data which is stored in relational database management systems can be considered as structured. Unstructured, I mean, I can elaborate on this, but then we have only 25 minutes left, so we have to be conscious on time as well. I'm just giving you some overview on it. Unstructured data, a data which doesn't have any structure to it. Again, let me explain. If you want to store the same sales data, okay, in an unstructured format, maybe this is how you'll be storing it. A customer with ID xyz, name, some maybe Sai Akila, okay, have bought Dell monitor P series for so and so price. So there is a lot of verbose in it. Okay, so doing analysis on that type of data would be really challenging, and storing that data would be really challenging. Instead, what I'll do is I'll try to identify the important attributes of that particular phrase. If I see important attributes would be customer ID, then product ID, then maybe customer name, maybe selling price, so on and so forth. Like, I'll be identifying few important attributes, and I store only those particular values of that record rather than storing a whole verbose. That would make my life easy in terms of storage, in terms of retrieval as and when required. Okay, so this is the advantage what your structured data would bring in when compared to unstructured data. Then we have semi-structured data. Semi-structured data will still have some structure associated with it, but they are not typically stored in tables. So examples for semi-structured would be maybe JSON data and XML data. So there are all there are few examples of semi-structured data, right? Now, let me classify data into another thing. Again, this is my classification. This is nowhere mentioned. Okay, based on my interactions with my customers. Okay, one thing is data which can be collected, data which can be collected and processed, then data, my bad, data which can be collected but cannot be processed, and finally data which cannot be collected. Could be of different reasons. Okay, so few customers would tell me, boss, it's highly impossible to collect data. This is the data what I want, but I'm not able to collect my data at all. This is one kind of complaints which I keep hearing. And second type of data, boss, I'm able to collect my data, but I'm not able to process it. I repeat, I'm able to collect my data, but I'm not able to process it, again, due to some limitations. Okay, the first category is the best category. I'm able to collect my data and I'm able to process it. Happy customers. Okay, so for doing this data and analytics, we don't really need big data technologies or advanced data science technologies. If your business is small, if you could accommodate in your existing infrastructure like RDBMS or whatever the data warehouses you are pretty good. Okay, but why industry is moving towards big data? Let me explain. Okay, so these guys, they are able to collect the data, but they're not able to process it. Okay, when we interrogate for the reasons, they would come up with saying that, but the data is so huge, the data is so huge that they are able to collect it because hard disk is cheaper, but with infrastructure whatever they have, they are not able to process it, or they are not able to, when I say process, any operation which you are doing on your data can be considered as processing. Maybe you want to see top 5 products, you are doing some processing. Maybe you want to see the most sold product in a particular area, you are doing processing. So any operation, be it simple or be it complex, you do on your data would come under processing. So huge. Second thing was, I'm having only RDBMS, or maybe I'm having only data warehouses which predominantly or which only deals with structured data. So I'm getting some semi-structured data, or I'm getting some unstructured data which I'm not able to process it. Okay, maybe this could be another reason. Different types of data. Okay, now I have data, but I'm not reliable on that data. I'm not reliable on that data. Okay. For example, maybe I have used some web scraping technologies to extract data from the various websites. Now that you have lot of data, data is everywhere. Okay. So after this period of data explosion, now we are in a period after data explosion. Okay. So what do I mean by data explosion? So data explosion is a scenario where the data have grown leaps and bounds in a very short period of time. So this is what we call as data explosion. People say numbers as well, but I don't exactly remember what the number is. But yes, the growth of data in leaps and bounds in a very short period of time is what we consider as data explosion. Okay, and we are in a period after data explosion right now. Okay, so you go anywhere, you'll get some data. So is that data reliable? Answer, I don't know. Okay, so I have got some data. To what extent I can rely on that data, I don't know, right? So such kind of data we call not reliable. And there is another explanation to a similar not reliable. Okay, so you guys have collected data, have got some data, by doing one or the other thing, but I'm not able to process it because I don't know what insights to extract out of it or what analysis I can do out of it. Okay. So these are the reasons why the data, though the data is collected, they are not able to process it. And why data can't be collected? Again, very different reasons. My data is so huge that I'm not able to store it on my existing infrastructure. Forget about processing. I'm not able to store it first. Okay. And then the rate of data generation is so high. The rate of data generation is so high that my existing infrastructure is not able to match the speed of data generation. This usually happens with data that are getting generated from sensors, be it IoT sensors, be it any other sensors. Today, world is running on sensors. You call any device to be smart, they have sensors installed on it. Okay. I don't know how many people are from, again, Telugu speaking states. The very reason why I'm mentioning this is there is a movie called Chitralahari in Telugu. Okay, so in that movie they have wonderfully displayed the ability of an IoT device, the ability of an OBD device, onboard diagnostics. Okay, which most of the advanced cars are using. Okay, so I can give you a live example. So there is a car called Skoda Kodiaq. Okay, which my manager was using, and he have given me this example, right? He was driving on outer ring road, and he suddenly kept hearing a beep sound. And then he investigated to check what the issue could be, and then a message was displayed on his screen saying that take a tea break, which means the car was smart enough to notice that my manager was sleepy and gave him a message. And then my manager will have realized that already 2 songs were played when he was unconscious. So he was almost unconscious for 5 to 6 minutes. Okay, so how did the car was able to do that? So OBD data have, I mean, these OBD devices have generated some data, and then their system have analyzed it and found out the driving pattern to be sleepy. So the way he is driving, the movement of his car, the movement of his steering, the acceleration, different parameters of it, they have taken all of them, and they recognized that the driver is sleepy. And then immediately they displayed the message saying that boss, you are sleepy. Okay, so you call any device to be smart, there are a lot of sensors involved there, and these sensors generate data at a rapid pace, maybe 1 data point per every second, sometimes milliseconds. Okay, so in order to match that speed, you'll have to have very good infrastructure setup, right? And if you see all these problems, they happens to be characteristics of big data: volume, different types of data, variety, and then not reliable, its veracity. We also refer to this as data in doubt. Okay, and then finally this rate of data generation is velocity. Okay, so big data doesn't have any constraints to be called as big data. Big data is a relative terminology. Okay, maybe 30-40 GB to your mobile phones, to your smartphones could be big data to your smartphones. Okay, so I would define big data in this way. Any data which cannot be processed by a particular machine would be considered as big data to that particular machine. And why it is not being processed by that particular machine? When I say machine, I'm referring to a computer or a processor. Okay, maybe because of any of these reasons. The data is so huge that my system was not able to process it, or I have a system which deals with only structured data. I'm not able to deal unstructured data. And second thing, I have data, but I don't know what to do with it. And the third thing, velocity. The rate of data generation is so huge that I'm not able to match the pace, or my system was not able to match the pace of the rate or data generation rate. Okay, so the data which is having any of these characteristics, it need not have all of them, but if the data has any of these characteristics, you can consider that data as big data. Okay, now let me give you the bookish definition of it. You take any concept, you'll have two things, guys. One is understandable language, which can be easily explained as easily understandable. Second one is bookish knowledge. So bookish definition, which you'll have to speak during your interviews, and which cannot be understood in the first go. Maybe by reading that term multiple times, you might be able to understand it, but definitely not in the first go. Again, this is my way of looking at it. My bad. Okay, so why big data? This is the very reason. So during this lockdown, a lot of the jobs are being lost, and then the existing technologies are being obsolete. I would say maybe 5 years, 6 years back, maybe 8 years back, I would say, when I have started my career, there were a huge number of opportunities for Java developers. Now I don't see the same number of opportunities for Java developers. And second thing, the competition is pretty high. I would say when I'm shifting to my current company, I have had around 8 offers in my hand, and I have also went to Cognizant for interview. I have seen around 1,000 folks coming in for Java interviews. Around 1,000 folks. I don't know how many positions were there, but I could see at least 1,000 folks who are competing for those number of positions. And I hardly see 100 to 150 big data developers. And let me tell you what, wherever I have attended an interview, I have managed to clear it. Couple of reasons. One is there is huge demand for big data, and second thing is there are not enough quality developers in big data. Out of 100 resumes we receive, I would say 80 of them, those resumes doesn't have any quality. So those resumes are of who have attended some Coursera recorded sessions or Udemy recorded sessions, haven't practiced enough, or doesn't have proper knowledge on it, and they just know the terminology of big data and they have applied it. Okay, so that is the reason, if you can be part of those 20 folks clearing an interview is nothing. Okay, and you have a lot of opportunities today because the industry have grown to an extent. Each and every organization is dealing with terabytes and petabytes of data. So dealing with this amount of data with your traditional infrastructure or existing infrastructure would be a challenge. Every company is moving to big data now. Okay, so you might be seeing some posts in Google or online, a few fans of traditional technologies opposing big data technologies, saying that it is not good for CRUD operations. But then the recent advancement of Apache Delta, have started supporting that as well. So when I say big data, it's not always about MapReduce. Okay, so industry have moved. So few people have still stuck in MapReduce, thinking that big data cannot scale up. Okay, industry have moved, and there are a lot of openings, guys. Trust me, you can just open any job portals and you can give a big data keyword and see the number of opportunities. That speaks for itself. Okay, and I'm able to sleep peacefully every day, not thinking about a job loss or anything else. Just because, without my team or without my technology, industry is going to halt. At least it will stall. All the analysis what we have been providing, all the insights what we have been providing, definitely our business is going to stall. Okay, so that is the kind of role these technologies are playing these days.
Suresh,
Yep.
I have a question here.
uh,
Most big data.
can I take that question in the Q&A session?
Okay, fine. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. And next thing, this is the amount of data that is getting generated in 1 minute, guys. Okay, so this is just a simple snapshot. Like every 1 minute, 72 hours of YouTube videos are getting uploaded, and then 2.5 million pieces of content were posted on Facebook, and the other stats are for you here. Okay, so and this is the data generated from maybe 5 different sources I have taken, and it's in 1 minute. Now imagine how much data is being created by just these 5 sources in a day. Okay. So again, data is the data itself having any of these characteristics. Now, how we are going to manage big data? Using Hadoop framework. Okay, so what is this Hadoop framework? This is a framework. This is a distributed framework built to handle big data or manage big data. When I say manage, I would be talking in terms of two terminologies here again: storage or storage and processing. Processing, earlier it used to be MapReduce, now it's Spark. Earlier it used to be MapReduce, now it's Spark. So distributed processing in Hadoop started with MapReduce and it has transitioned to Spark now. Okay, so for storage, we'll be using something called as HDFS. If you are using a standalone cluster, Hadoop distributed file storage. If you are using cloud, if it is Microsoft Cloud, you'll be using ADLS, Azure Data Lake Store. If you are using AWS, you'll be using S3 buckets. Okay, so these are the different file systems which we'll be talking in our course. And then talking about MapReduce and Spark, we do have a lot of technologies based on these tools. We have Hive, we have Pig, we have Impala, we have Drill, we have Spark RDDs, we have Spark Core, we have Spark Streaming. Then we have data ingestion tools like Scoop, Flume, and then Kafka. Okay, which were listed in your demo message, or you can also get that from our course content. So probably you can request career IT folks, support folks. They would be able to help you out with the course content, right? So all these technologies will be discussing during this course. As I said, Hadoop framework. Big data is the data itself which is having one of the above characteristics which we have discussed. And this Hadoop framework, we would be using this Hadoop framework in order to manage that big data. When I say manage, how the data would be stored, and then how the data would be processed. Why are there are a lot of technologies? It could be because of various reasons, and again we'll be deep diving into that during our course. Okay, would like to end this session here with my favorite quote, and post that I'll be taking your questions. So this is my favorite quote, all-time favorite quote. Okay, so this is one quote which keeps me moving every day. Data are like people, torture them enough and they'll tell you everything. So few people call it as data and few people would call it as numbers. For me, both are same. Data are like people, torture them enough and they'll tell you everything. And I have kept doing this from last 6.5 years. Okay, so with this, let me stop my demo, and you can post your questions in the chat window so that I'll be answering one after the other. Do we need to be an expert in Java to learn Hadoop? No. Answer is big no. Okay, Java is gone. Java is obsolete, at least in terms of big data technologies. Back in 2014, when I started my career on big data, that is when Java has been used most predominantly in developing big data applications. That is from this MapReduce framework. Okay, but today everything is moving on Python and Scala. I would say Python. Maybe today Scala might have a little edge, but with the advancements of Python, at least in the next few months, Python is going to overtake Scala for sure. I mean, people are using Scala just because Scala is a native language or native to Spark. But in the recent edition of Spark, they have come up with this advancement of Apache Arrow, which would remove the cross-platform dependency. So with that advancements, people started looking at only Python as an option, because a lot of data engineers, a lot of data scientists come from Python background. Okay. So Shweta, what are technologies or languages we need to get expertise in Hadoop? My first preference and my favorite is always SQL. If you are good at SQL, if you know ETL concepts, if you have worked on ETL tools, your life would be very easy to survive in big data environment. Okay, and above all, I would say your enthusiasm to learn. Let me give you an example. So one of my previous participant, he was having 6.5 years of experience into marketing and digital marketing. He was working in Pune. He got married, and his wife was working in Infosys in Hyderabad. Now he wanted to change his career to technology. Okay, so this happened in around June 2019. Okay, when I was taking classes for Collabora, right? So that guy, he managed to learn these big data tools, and his roomie was a HCL guy who is working on ETL tools. So he literally have spent a lot of time on learning that SQL, and he managed to clear interview in TCS Hyderabad. He have got offer from TCS. He have got offer from Cognizant. He also got offer from Accenture. He joined TCS because whatever he have learned is most relevant with the job description of TCS. Okay. So next question, Rahul, can we write MapReduce program in Python? Yes, you can do that, but nobody would recommend you to do that because that adds a lot of overhead. And to answer your question in short, nobody is using MapReduce now. I would say there are maybe 1 or 2 companies which are still relying on MapReduce just because they don't want to upgrade their existing solutions. Okay, so when you ask me Python for MapReduce, a big no. But if you ask me, does MapReduce have that capability? Answer is yes. Okay, there is a concept called Hadoop streaming, using which you can develop MapReduce applications in Python. Is Java used with Hadoop? No, no, a big no. As I said, Python SQL would be more than enough, or Scala SQL. These are the only 2 alternates what are there in industry right now. Data warehouse would be supported by big data technologies. Elaborate. Okay, let me take your question at the end. Do freshers have good opportunities in big data? Answer is yes, no, both. Okay. Answer is no when it comes to it's come to the big companies like TCS, Infosys, or I would say consulting firms, because they don't recruit freshers with a particular skill set. They recruit freshers, and as per their requirements, they train them and they deploy them into projects. Okay, but so I don't see a big opportunity for you getting into these companies, but there are a lot of startups which are working predominantly on these big data technologies. If you don't have a mindset of working in a big company, you can go for these startups which are really promising. They have been they have had a lot of investment, and they're doing tremendously well in big data area. There are a lot of such startups in T-Hub itself. If you are joining from Hyderabad, I'm not commenting about any other areas because I'm not sure about the demand over there. But in T-Hub itself, there are a lot of companies, startup companies, which are working on these big data technologies. So you will definitely have a chance to work over there. But getting into big companies like TCS, or when I say big companies in terms of numbers, in terms of number of employees, getting into those companies and getting into a big data project might not be as straightforward as you might see, because I have worked there and I know how those companies works. Okay, they recruit people, they train them on requirement basis, and they'll deploy them into projects. Akila, so Hadoop doesn't have anything to do with programming languages like C, Java. I would say it used to. Again, C, C++ nowhere in picture. So in 2014, 15, 2013, those were the times when people used Java for developing MapReduce applications. But now nobody is using Java. I mean, Spark applications can be developed using Java. I'll give you an example. Again, in 2018, I have cleared an interview with Reliance Jio, and those guys are still using Java with Spark. I mean, they're developing Spark applications with Java. I have this bad habit of attending interviews. I keep attending interviews to understand the present requirement. Okay. So though I am working in a company, but I still keep giving interviews. The only reason to understand the requirement. So Reliance Jio is one company which are still using Java with Spark. Okay, Spark with Java. And there is another company in Hyderabad, United Health Group. They are also using MapReduce and Spark with Java. Apart from these two companies, no other company have given me this requirement of Java. So any
Hey,
other company? Yeah,
Suresh, this is Tara Kumar. I have a
okay.
couple of questions. I think one of the question you answered about the Java, that one
Mhm.
is okay. And are you going to teach about Python, how to develop all these big data requirements like
Yes,
getting data injection and everything and data processing?
yes. When it comes to Python, I'll not be teaching a comprehensive Python course, which includes all the web applications and all, but I'll be teaching the core concepts of Python and object-oriented concepts of Python, which would be enough to develop big data applications. I'll not be getting into Django, Flask, or any other frameworks of Python.
Yeah, I've not expected that, but yeah, at least big data related technologies, whatever is
Yeah, I'll be
required,
doing.
that you will be covering, right?
Yes, I'll be
And
covering as a part of this course.
yeah, last week actually I attended the Azure Build conference and also AWS conferences.
Mhm.
They were actually providing like tools and technologies to develop all these big data related or AI machine learning related things.
I'm
Are you
not sure
going
about
to cover?
AWS, but Azure, they're giving you a free account worth 13,000 bucks.
Oh, okay.
So in my course, I cannot promise you that I'll be using Azure, because even I still need to explore how I can provide it for free of cost to you. So in my work environment right now, I'm using Azure. I have had worked on GCP and AWS as well. Right
Uh-huh.
now, I'm working on Azure. I can show you a demo kind of, but because let me tell you what, you are paying already some good amount for taking this course. I cannot ask you to pay 20 or 30,000 more to get that cloud subscription. Again, I'm not sure whether it would cost that amount or not, because I have never taken that cloud for a license and used it. So we'll
Mhm.
have to do some experimentation on that, and let me see how much we can do with the free account they have given. Maybe they are giving a free account worth 13,000, right? So I'll have to do some analysis on how I can better utilize that 13,000 bucks, so that you can have this some exposure over there. But I
Yeah.
cannot teach the complete course on Azure, because you'll not be paying more than 13,000 there. If you are ready to invest, I can definitely guide you, because I develop applications on Azure.
Okay, because going forward, like like 80% of the projects are not in success state in the big data environment. Only 20% is a success state. One of the reason is like the environment and skill set, right? Am I
The statement is completely false, Tarakumar. 80% is failure. That's totally wrong. See, till now I have worked on more than 10 different projects for big data. Okay,
uh-huh.
and
Okay.
almost 8 of them were successful. Let me explain.
Okay.
So, firstly, in 2015, 2014, during those times, at least till 2015, you
Mm-hmm.
know, no full-time projects were developed on big data. They're all POCs. That is something which we need to understand. Okay. So most of the projects are POCs just to understand the capabilities of big data, but they're all paid POCs and they have paid a lot of amount for those POCs, right? And second, as you said, skill set mismatch. This is one point which I would highly agree. So any guy who is working on this data should have some data knowledge, right? You know, if some data guy comes in, if I tell him, boss, pivot this particular table and then join with table X and then do union with table Y, he should be able to do that. But this particular big data have given you a capability of only MapReduce. Okay. So in order to develop applications in MapReduce, you should know Java. So I'll have to typically recruit guys who have this Java knowledge and train them on big data. And again, two challenges here. One thing is that Java guy wouldn't be able to understand this terminology if he is not properly trained. So there you for the role of one guy, you'll have to recruit two guys. One is developer and second one is analyst. This analyst is the guy with the data background who will be guiding this Java guy to develop these applications. Okay. I'm talking about the scenario at least 3-4 years back. And second thing, this Java guy doesn't learn MapReduce completely because most of the companies wouldn't give them enough time to scale up.
Right.
So they would be learning a few concepts and they'll start implementing Java code instead of using MapReduce features. I'll give you one example. Maybe you want to sort data using date. Okay. So what these MapReduce folks will do is, I mean, these so-called MapReduce developers, so they will write a separate comparator and compare to classes, and they'll do this sort functionality. But MapReduce provides you with something called a secondary sorting. Okay. So they tend to develop more Java-relied applications rather than using MapReduce existing concepts because they don't have time to upgrade themselves on all the MapReduce technologies. Just because applications are working, they developed it. But then industry have moved from MapReduce to Spark. During this journey, they have come up with a lot of reliable tools like Hive. If you take Hive, one of the most robust technologies in Hadoop today, and then we have this Spark SQL, and then recently they have come up with Delta. So using this Delta, you can also do updates. Okay. So again, you have proper skill set, and again, not everywhere your big data fits in, right? You wanted to do some kind of reporting kind of use cases. You cannot directly go and take data from Hive because Hive is not something which would behave like your transactional databases, RDBMS. It's not an RDBMS. It is for batch processing. So you use Hadoop for batch processing, your use case would be successful. You use Hadoop for transactional data point of view, your use case would be failure. So a lot of the architects, they just tagged themselves as Hadoop architects and provided a lot of wrong solutions too. I agree, because I have seen that. I have argued with architects. There are a lot of such scenarios. But you talk about the period after 2016, after Spark came into picture, everything was changed. So a lot of the use cases today
are you covering real-time processing as part of this one?
I would say near real-time, because we will not have any real-time data sets available. But say for example, I have used maybe a concept XYZ in my industry. So I'll be explaining you that concept XYZ and take a closed data set where I can implement that real-time use case, and I'll be explaining you. That's how it's going to be.
I think IoT is the one, like you can get the real-time streaming information and other news feeds. All those things are real-time, right? Don't you think
let me answer again your question. Let me answer your question again. So, so if I went to that approach, my course would easily take 4 to 5 months. Okay, that would become a semester course. So this course would have around 2 months of duration. So I'll have to come up with the content which I can better help you with. Like most of you might be aiming for job switches, most of you might be aiming for internal project switches, most of you maybe in product manager roles and you wanted to take up projects on Spark. Okay, so I'll have to give my best in the span of 2 months. It's not a semester course of 4 months or 5 months. There are such kind of courses too, which are charging 4 lakhs, 5 lakhs. You can see from Great Lakes Management, they are offering a course and another company is offering a course with tie-up with NIT Rourkela. Okay, so those courses are different again. So I'll not be getting into any other technology here, because integrating them, showing you that integration, that
No,
itself will take
just
a lot of time.
basically nowadays like a batch processing is not only sufficient, right? Most of the things like a real-time scenarios processing is required. That is the one, and the cloud-related technology as part of this course would be more appropriate. If you have separate course, let me know. Yeah, just want to understand those areas also. Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
in this
Thanks
course
for
we'll be covering Kafka and Spark streaming, that's for sure. Okay,
okay.
so we'll be showing how the streaming data works. Okay, so
Will
that
you
is there.
cover the TensorFlow or something like that?
Sorry?
TensorFlow. Are you going to use that
No,
one?
no.
No. Okay. Okay. Got
Okay.
it. Thanks. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are few questions. Kiran B, how about Kafka? How long would it take to complete? So Kafka, you'll get a very basic knowledge. Let me be pretty honest, because we'll be covering around uh, you know 7 to 8 different tools and Python in this course. So Kafka, you'll be understanding architecture of Kafka, how it works, how to install it, and then how you can connect it with Spark streaming. Till that you'll get. But this course is not completely on Kafka and Spark streaming, so it will have ETL aspects too. Okay. How long this entire course takes to complete? It would take around 2 months, I would say. 2 months, maybe plus 1 week, not more than that. So Ayakla, if a person has good knowledge in SQL and Python, would that be enough to learn Hadoop? Yes. If you put in real good effort to learn, how long it will take for a fresher in Hadoop to learn? So for a fresher, okay. So let me tell you what, most of us are freshers. Okay, when it comes to big data technologies, it depends on what you already know, and how excited you are to learn this particular technology. That would be really helping you. Okay, so 2.5 months is the minimum time which I would say. And I have left one question. Data warehouse would be supported by big data technologies, elaborate. Yeah, this is one question which I wanted to take at the end. Okay, so data warehousing, we don't have a typical data warehouse kind of architectures where you can go for dimensional models and all. But what we usually do is we'll try to replicate almost similar kind of structures in Hive as well. So Hive is one tool which is analogous to, I mean, where the analogous use cases can be built to data warehouses. And these days we are using Spark SQL to process those tables. Okay, but again, as I said, it doesn't support your dimensional models. Like you cannot define all the relations between the tables. How about lab guidances? I saw sometime back Hadoop uses some server setups. How about that environment? To answer your question, Kiran, I want you to understand there are two distinct roles in Hadoop. One is Hadoop administrator and second one is Hadoop developer. Talking about Hadoop administrator, he would be the guy who would be taking care of all the environment setup. Okay, so starting from installations of these softwares, connecting them in network, and then maintaining it and supporting, everything would be taken care of by these administrators. And this course is for Hadoop developer course. I'm a Hadoop developer, so what I would do, I would be using the environment which is already set up and I develop applications using it. Okay, so that is the reason we will be using uh, the tools which would need minimal effort in administering it. So the distributions like Cloudera, Hortonworks, MapR, they are already giving some free VMs. Okay, so we'll be using them for our lab exercises. I think I have answered all the questions. I would say they are 95% close, because at the end of the day, even you go there, you'll be using those tools itself. Cool. If you don't have any more questions, thank you guys. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you for attending this demo.
Thank you, Suresh.
And Tara Kumar, definitely I'll let you know if we are designing a course on completely streaming. We are in thought of that.
Okay,
Okay.
sure.
So
Yeah, please include
because
the cloud related also, because I'm more interested cloud and streaming related services,
Mhm.
and also certification on that. So just because I know some of the basic functionality and some areas experience in this, but
Mhm.
wanted to have more exposure on that area.
Yeah, definitely I'll take this feedback. But even
Mhm.
before I taking this feedback from you, we have had this thought, of
Okay,
having a separate streaming course.
okay.
Okay, so where we predominantly deal with these streaming data sets and things, but then we don't have lot of requirement coming in that particular area.
Hmm. Sure.
And even we have done our analysis from our end to
Okay,
stick to the market requirements.
okay, got it. Thanks.
Definitely, I'll be launching it, and for sure, I'll be letting you know through CareerIT.
Sure. Thank you, Suresh.
Yep.
Yeah,
Kiran, answer. I mean, your spelling is correct. It's NiFi. It's called Apache NiFi. So we'll not be covering NiFi here. We'll be covering Kafka, Scoop, and Flume here in our course. Again, NiFi is a drag and drop tool. Okay. Again, as I said, not every technology can be covered in the span of 2 months, but I'll try my best to cover all the technologies which will be most frequently used. You can get some idea on what would be covered from the course content, because the big data has the ocean of technologies. Is the time same every day? Not sure. You guys have to get in touch with CareerIT folks. Okay, and CareerIT folks would give you the appropriate timings and schedules.
Yes, Suresh, we will give updates.
Yeah, they'll be updating you on the further steps. Cool then. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great weekend, and hope to see every one of you in my